How to overcome people pleasing. So, first of all, it's important to know what people pleasing really is and why we become people pleasers. And when we have parents, narcissistic parents who are abusive and emotionally unavailable, we learn to seek the approval of our parents in order to gain some kind of love and appreciation. So essentially, the parent-child relationship becomes reverse. And instead of the parent just naturally giving the child, approval and I love you just as you are, and, the unconditional love, it becomes the other way around, where the child is then trying to gain that approval. And it's very unfortunate that the child, needs to hide their true self from their parents in order to get this approval and this, crumbs of love. And and in this process, the child loses touch with their own true self and identity. This is an extremely, extremely sad thing that happens to children of narcissistic parents. So, as you grow up, it might seem like, this people pleasing is kind of working. And, you don't have to disappoint anybody, and, you're just kind of performing and proving yourself and people pleasing and being a perfectionist, all those P's, right? Perfectionism, people pleasing, performing, trying to prove yourself. And so it's, it might seem to work for a while because everyone around you seems really happy, right? But inside are repressed emotions of anger and resentment and fear and shame, despair and depression and grief. So as as our true self starts to emerge and we start getting in touch again with our feelings, even if it's just a little bit, we start to come out of the denial. And these repressed emotions begin to surface. And we may also start to realize how exhausting it is to be constantly trying to suppress ourselves and try to fawn and please others. It's really a game of trying to control everything, trying to control your own image and how other people see me and what other people's reaction is going to be, and trying to control outcomes of things instead of setting boundaries, and just trying to avoid, the rejection. And I say this with a great deal of love and compassion, and to remind yourself frequently that this is not your fault, this conditioning that happened to you. But, as you start to love yourself more and more, this is what I found, is the more that I loved myself, the more I just couldn't tolerate other people's non-loving behaviors. It just became like, nope, that's not okay for me anymore. And, so it's really just a process of loving ourselves. And then we naturally start to, create some boundaries. And you may notice, as I did anyway, that as I created boundaries for myself, I started to feel more peaceful, more safe. I started to feel a little better about myself. My anxiety went way down. It was gradual, but and most importantly, just feel good about yourself and feel like, I belong here on this planet. And so in this process, I think what I was reflecting on kind of this morning is, how I was kind of shaming myself a little bit for being a people pleaser. and thinking like, oh, I'm so pathetic. And, I've just been like, not taking care of, my needs, and my boundaries slide sometimes. And, feeling like, I can feel like sometimes just a loser because I don't have better boundaries. And none of that is helpful. I mean, that is just more of the shame flashback that tells us that we're shameful for being a people pleaser and shameful for not having better boundaries. So it's important to turn that shame around into the anger, and to really anger that out, to really get angry about how your parents treated you, or in many cases didn't treat you because they were neglecting you, and thus you had no choice but to fawn and people please in order to survive. And basically you were conditioned to think like, I need to abandon myself in order to survive, which is actually completely opposite. um you know um it feels weird even me like saying this, because I'm like, but I do need to, like, I can't have all my needs met. If I try to have my needs met, I'm not gonna it's very backwards. It's very, again, it's very insidious and kind of subtle. The truth is, when we are our true selves, then we are able to thrive. When we are aligned with our true self, with God, then we thrive, because we are living as as God created us to be. And so it's really important to, and I think this is maybe where I'm at right now. And it's a really, I'm feeling like it's a really hard thing to face, that, that I buried my true self, so that I could fit into my family, like it, and to really like, first of all, just get angry about that, like let myself feel the anger that, and it's okay to feel angry at your parents. It really is. I think we think in our society, it's such a taboo that you can't like get angry at your parents. Don't blame your parents. But it's okay as as an initial thing to like, yes, get angry, get enraged, get infuriated, that, you were robbed of the, just the essential thing of just being able to be you, the, beingness in the world. And, the more I come out of my flashbacks, the more actually painful it is to be in the flashback. Last year and a half, I was taking care of a little girl, and when I'm out of the flashback, and I saw her the other day on the street, and I was not in the flashback, and when I saw her face, I was absolutely in awe of her beauty. It was just absolutely stunning to me. I mean, her face was just seemed so alive and vibrant and lit up, and like her eyes, and I was just like, I felt so much love. And perhaps that's how I would feel to my own, my own self. And then the last couple of days I was caring for her, and I was in the flashback. And so there's this kind of dulling sense. There's this, filter there of the shame and the fear, and I'm not completely connecting. And this, I don't want to shame myself for that. I just want to, feel the sadness of that. That just being robbed of that, that just basic ability to just be, to just simply be, who I am, and to feel connected, to feel the belonging, to feel the aliveness, because wow, there's a huge difference between being in a flashback and not. And now, I know, and I've seen, or if I'm in nature and I'm not in a flashback, wow, it's like everything is like just popping, like trees are like green, everything is more like 3D or 4D. It's just, yeah, it's an amazing thing. And just to feel that much relaxation in my body. And yeah, so grieving is the way that we overcome the people pleasing. We cannot, there's, of course, there's lots of things that will help, of course, we need to set boundaries. We need to love ourselves. We need to do the mental and emotional work, the mental, intellectual work. But the most important part is the emotional part. And that is, yeah, getting angry, moving through the hopelessness, and feeling the shame, how awful it feels to feel ashamed. It's a horrible feeling. And to grieve, to really allow the sadness of it, of years and years lost, and in being a false self. Yeah, and I think I'm working on that. That feels like my next step here. So I really thank you for joining me today, and yeah, I'm wishing you well on your path. And if you have any questions, any comments, I am very open to feedback. I am Davina Shemaya, wishing you many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And you can find me at Boldness Blooming. Thanks for watching.